Looking at series like Black Clover and My Academia, there is definitely criticism to it, but there's one in particular that I still haven't gotten and I still don't get, is the consequence of death. And some of you may be asking, what do I mean by the consequence of death? Is me basically debunking this claim that Black Clover and My Academia have to randomly kill off characters just to make consequences, which again, you don't have to do. I've said multiple times that death is not the only consequence to a series. I think Black Clover and My Academia are suffering from this criticism is because some people just haven't read the lines from Black Clover and My Academia, or they see series like Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, and they think that death is the absolute consequence that can be in a series. Today in this video, I will get into My Academia and Black Clover and look at one of their major arcs and see the consequences in those major arcs endings. And I'll explain why death didn't need to be a consequence in there. If you are new to the channel, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, always stay notified whenever I upload a video. Now, without further ado, we can finally get into this video. The Paranormal Liberation War arc. Now, I think I go into this first because it's more simple and more easy for me to understand. And for the Black Clover Elf arc, you have to kind of watch the anime to get where the consequences were coming from. I suggest you read this arc because it is very, very good. But if you're staying here and you want me to spoil it, then damn, you're ready to get spoiled. After My Villain Academia ended, the League of Villains aligned themselves with the Paranormal Liberation Front, and they wanted to go to war with the heroes. They set up everything, and Shigaraki had to go in a tank to finally get All for One's quirk. And the heroes, being Hawks basically gave them all the info they needed, and the heroes were getting ready to get the jump on the villains. In quick summary, they kind of did, and they kind of did it because they were not strong enough, and everything was through the roof. Let's actually get to the ending of the arc, because that's where the real meat and potatoes and the real consequences started to form. If you guys actually read the manga of the Paranormal Liberation War arc, you actually know the ending. The villain is escaping, and the heroes in utter ruins. And even there was death. The death that you people say is a consequence, is the biggest consequence of them all, is there. It is a consequence. Midnight, some of our pro heroes dying. I could talk about the deaths and all the consequences in the Paranormal Liberation War arc, but I'm gonna keep the death out of it because again, there's no death that needs to be talked about because this is something that Black Clover and My Academia has been suffering from since people think death is the only consequence in a series. No, it is not. And think about it, if you actually read it, you would actually see that Toya Todoroki has finally got revealed, and what he did to Endeavor and your society, he put them in shambles to the point where people don't even trust Hero Society. You don't need to have deaths of your important characters, just kill off random characters to make your story or the ending of your arc to have an impact. It does not work like that. Think about the Gigantomachia Rampage. Now, if some of you guys are writing, My Hero Academia or writing the War arc, you'd probably do this. Probably kill Endeavor. And now think about that. If you killed Endeavor, you wouldn't get the moments you got in the hospital with Endeavor and his family, and him trying to tell the story of the Todoroki family and how Dabi came to be. There's multiple other characters if you kill off, it's going to be meaningless if we're being honest. That's why Class 1A and Class 1B had to live, because there was no reason for them to die. They are already, heroes in training, and they still have promise. I do think that some of them will possibly die in the nearer ends of the future, but right now is just a little bit too soon. I think most MHA fans understand their series, and I think even the people that don't understand their series, they could just talk to MHA fans. They know the consequences are through the roof as of right now. But there's another series that consequences, people think that it's not really there, and I'm going to debunk that because it is there. And the series I'm talking about is Black Clover. Ah yes, Black Clover, the punching bag of Shonen Jump. Even though it's pretty damn good, people still like to crap on it because it's a trend, it's an annoying trend. But I will not be talking about any other arcs besides the biggest arc in Black Clover, the Elf arc, in my opinion, one of the best new gen arcs. And I can make a whole bunch of arguments of why the Elf arc is one of the best new gen arcs in current Shonen Jump, but right now is not the time. We're just going to talk about the consequences, since ever since the Elf arc ended, everyone's been getting this bad taste in their mouth that there were no consequences at the end of the arc. Well, I'm here to tell you guys this, because I am the Red Cloak. A quick rundown of what happened. Asa defeats the Gred, they escape the Shadow Palace, and now William, Licht, and technically Asta are doing this combo spell to remove the souls of the elves from the people who were possessed. And we know this because in the manga it happened and in the anime it happened. We know about Julius' revival, and people have spat on that idea or spat on the notion of reviving Julius because it seemed like his arc was over. It seemed like everything was wrapping up for his character. But Julius was able to store 13 years of time, and on the rune on his forehead, it was shown, and the symbolism was very, very good. Again, I'm not going to talk about Julius's whole revival thing. I can make a whole different video about that. But just because Julius got revived doesn't mean it's bad writing. It was perfectly executed, and there was multiple foreshadowings on why he got revived. But the consequences: Julius is now a kid. He's lost all of his powers as a Wizard King, and his grimoire is just gone. This could possibly lead into Augustus taking on all the power of the capital and the Clover Kingdom if Julius is gone. Because if Julius is gone, who's going to stop these guys from taking up all the power? No one is, because Julius is a kid and he technically has no say. Even when Asta gets a victory and gets a defeat on Zagreb, he doesn't get seen like a hero. He gets put on trial because the Clover Kingdom wants to use him as a scapegoat so they can blame the whole devil thing on Asta. And that would completely mean that Asta might get executed, which again we don't see happening because Yami and the Black Bulls and Fuegoleon and Nozel technically save him from that, and they're technically exiled from the Clover Kingdom, but at the same time they're not. Now, anime canon filler, I do consider it canon to the manga, since, you know, there was actually an anime canon guy in the manga right now in the Spade arc, so I'm gonna assume that this whole thing is canon to the manga as well. And it ties up very perfectly into the consequences of the Spade arc and what the consequences that the Clover Kingdom had to live with. To wrap up the quick summary, the summary is that the Devil Believers, or the Devil Banishers, wanted to get rid of the devils, but it was a ruse, and they wanted to have devils just like Asta, because they saw Asta as somebody who was weak and a peasant, but used devil powers to rise up the ranks. And not only that, they have kidnapped Nero, and they're planning to just ship her off to the Spade Kingdom to sell her for some devil power. Even though it's peasants, even though people like didn't trust the Clover Kingdom at that time, it's still the citizens of the Clover Kingdom. It's gonna put a bad taste in the public's mouth if they find out that now peasants want devil powers for themselves. It took everything they have to convince these guys to actually like come back to the Clover Kingdom, and it took William to basically sympathize with them on how they're feeling. William understands how these guys are feeling because he was just like them. He has been discarded, he has been made fun of, he has been ridiculed for how he looks and his status at the beginning of his life. I do think Asta, you know, doing this would make it even better, but William would be fine enough because William can understand the pain of some of these commoners. But in conclusion to this video, is death the only consequence you can have in your series, or the big final arc, or the major arc of your series? No, there can be multiple consequences, like the whole society breaking down, people losing distrust on you, or other minor characters dying or random characters dying, but can still impact the society these guys live in today. Take Black Clover and My Academia for examples. The Elf arc, it showed that these guys in society did not trust the Magic Knights, mostly the peasants, and we saw even in My Academia right now that everyone is losing distrust in heroes and all of that. No one's even trusting other people on the streets. It's kind of wild. If you guys did enjoy this video or have any criticism, have any likes or any complaints or anything in general, comment them down below or just contact me on Twitter or Discord. I'm always available, and I think it's time for me to help out of here, guys. Peace out, and I'm out, guys. Peace. Have a good rest of the day.